Hi guys, I hope you're well. In this video I want to discuss post-workout nutrition. Now if you've read up any nutrition information online, you may be under the impression of how important post-workout nutrition is. However, there's so many different things we need to actually consider when we're discussing post-workout nutrition. So ultimately there's two main objectives that would entail within a post-workout meal. One would be halting protein breakdown and kickstarting protein synthesis. The second point would be to replenish glycogen. However, the speed of that second point, replenish glycogen, would just completely depend on when that next training session is going to be. So for example, if you're an endurance trainee that trains twice per day, glycogen resynthesis is very important between session 1 and session 2. As such, that urgency and need for carbohydrates between session 1 and session 2 is important for this individual. However, if your next training session is 24 hours away and beyond, like most people watching this video, glycogen resynthesis will just take care of itself by default, with the caveat you consume sufficient carbohydrates. So hopefully this first part of the video just gives you an indication of that urgency of carbohydrates within that post-workout meal. The next thing we need to consider is whether someone's actually consumed a pre-workout meal prior to the training bout. So if you've had a pre-workout meal within 2 hours of your training session, it's important to note there's still going to be nutrients being absorbed during the session and for several hours post-workout as well. Again, this puts into context that speed and urgency of that post-workout meal. We actually need to look at the bigger picture of this post-workout meal. We still need to be focusing on the fundamentals first, i.e. meeting total calories and macronutrients first by the end of the day. That should be your most important priority first. Once you have that in place, then we can discuss a little bit more about the post-workout meal itself. However, make sure that you're tracking your calories and macronutrients and you're meeting daily targets. Now, the next thing to consider, you'll probably hear people talking about insulin and how we need to spike insulin post-workout, but this is a bit of a misconception. First, we need to realize that protein is also insulinogenic. So by default, just having a protein dose post-workout, you'll bring insulin above fasting levels, which is all you need. In addition to that, it's important to note that if there's a pre-workout meal containing at least carbohydrates, or protein, or both, insulin will be above fasting levels throughout the session for several hours post-workout. Here's some practical applications. Unless you're training twice per day within an 8-hour period, the timing of that post-workout meal isn't as important as you first believed. With that being said, I would still suggest having that post-workout meal within approximately 3 hours after your training bout. I would suggest approximately 25% of your protein intake post-workout. Once that's in place, just let your personal preference dictate when you consume your carbohydrates, with the caveat you consume sufficient carbohydrates by the end of the day. With regards to dietary fat intake, some people will say that it slows gastric emptying. However, this would only be of importance if you're training twice per day of an 8-hour period. So ultimately, let your personal preference dictate where you consume your fats throughout the day, as long as you stay within your daily calorie and macronutrient targets. So hopefully this has been useful. Hopefully this has opened your eyes of speed of that post-workout meal. Depends on context, i.e. unless you're training twice per day, timing is not as important. But with it being said, that I would still suggest having a post-workout meal approximately within 3 hours post-workout. In addition to that, we've also discussed if you have a pre-workout meal prior to the training bout, there's going to be nutrients being absorbed throughout the session and post-workout as well. So again, this puts into context that the urgency of that post-workout meal is not as important for that factor as well. We've discussed how protein will be used to halt protein breakdown and stimulate protein synthesis, and then we've discussed glycogen synthesis as a second goal, but that would happen by default if you consume sufficient carbohydrates by the end of the day if your training session's 24 hours away and beyond. So hopefully this all makes sense and hopefully you can start applying those principles. Thank you very much for watching. If you're still yet to subscribe to the channel, please do like the video if you enjoyed it, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care.